Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Best Friends Club Podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Charlotte.
And my name is Fizz. Welcome back.
Welcome. We're here for another episode. And do you know what, Fizz?
What?
Today we're actually talking about a video.
Yes! Finally! We've had. It's been a while since we've done a video.
It really has. I'd forgotten, sort of like, I have to watch a video and make notes about it to talk about it.
I know, yeah. And it's just, I feel like it's a video that is, since it's not on the channel, I don't know if newer viewers know about it, like newer fannies.
Maybe, yeah, because it is an unlisted video. I think I've only watched this like once or twice, obviously before it got removed from Phil's channel, so...
That's weird. I've watched it a bunch just because it's such an unhinged video. So today we are finally, we've been talking about this for the past 2 episodes. We're talking about the OREO Lick Race video.
The OREO Lick Race.
Uploaded on Amazing Phil on June 16, 2014.
That is correct.
What a wild video notification to get in 2014. I remember it. Like, I look back at my tweets and I was like, oh my god, yeah. I was like, what is this video?
I didn't have a look back at my tweets, actually. Should I do that quickly now?
Do you wanna? You can.
I'll do it quick. We'll take a break and I'll come back.
We have a time. Yeah. We have time. While
I forgot to do that.
No, that's okay. While you do, I can actually read what Phil tweeted at the time, because unlike a lot of uploads, I feel like Phil just sort of drops videos. He doesn't really tell us that often that he's going to upload, but this one he did.
That's
he
true.
said new video. He said new video in 20 minutes. It contains a lot of licking, which is bizarre, first of all. But I think...
Yeah, just imagine being in 2014 and you see that notification. Like, what is going to be going through your head?
Exactly, like, what are you going to think? But I also think, because I saw my own reply to that tweet of his, and I said something like, is it the video? And in my head, I'm like, what do you mean? The video? What was I expecting?
You were expecting a pin-off
I don't know
what
that was.
Like a summer pin-off?
Yeah, I don't think so. But maybe, I mean, we'll get into it because this was like a huge video. It's not just Phil who did it, but maybe other YouTubers had done it before him. And maybe I was like, could it perhaps be the OREO video that everyone else is doing?
Possibly.
But that's just
it turns out that it was.
Did you find yours?
I did find my tweets, so I didn't find my reply to whatever Phil tweeted about. But I did find this was one of the first videos that I found that I actually like live tweeted as like I watched it.
Okay. So how were you satisfied with it, with the licking video?
So one of my first tweets was Dan and Phil Lick Race. Okay then, yeah, sure. I guess that's what we're calling the video.
As we know, Dan and Phil are kings of clickbait.
And I like to think that I would have the exact same reaction now if they uploaded a video saying that, because I would also be completely baffled.
Yeah, same. Even though the videos we've had recently, they keep one-upping themselves. My god.
Yeah. And then I just made a comment about how many innuendos the video has, which we will get into, and some quotes from Dan. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much same. I looked at my live tweets as well. It was just the disgusting things that Dan was saying. Dan especially was saying. But yeah, so we can actually get into it if you are ready.
I am ready. Let's dive straight in.
Let's go.
So one of my first notes about the video was just how 2014 it is. Like, I think it's because it's been a while since we've watched a video to like react to. Not react to, but like talk about. It's, I think, and then because we've had quite a lot of uploads since I've watched an old Dan and Phil video, it's just so glaringly obvious that this was uploaded in 2014.
In
like
2014,
there's such a vibe to it that is 2014.
Yeah, like even like Phil himself like is so off that time, and I'm so used to like new Phil, like this new era of Phil, that I'm just like, whoa, jump scare. My first note was actually that it was interesting to me that he did an intro explaining that he got an email from Oreo, and then sort of just like go into it, and I wonder if that was a requirement from him to be like, I'm not just doing this randomly, this is part of a whole thing. Because I remember he did something similar for the Crave Challenge video as well, where he explained like Crave got in touch with me. It was very vague, like, oh, this is in partnership with the brand, but
yeah, I feel like that
have
definitely would have been something that he would have had to have said, and we are going to get into all of that once we've discussed the video. Like, if you're not aware, there was a huge, I say huge, I don't think it was quite that big, but
it was huge for us at the time.
Yeah, but this series of videos with other YouTubers and this partnership with Oreo sparked this massive sort of investigation into YouTube ad videos and what YouTubers should be saying as an ad and how they should be presenting that. But we're going to discuss the video first, and then we'll get into that because there's a lot to discuss around that.
Oh my god, yes. So that was it. Like, he just does like a very fun like skit intro to get like to start the video, which I thought was very old school Phil of him.
Yeah, I agree. My second note as well was that I would love to see a 2024 version of this.
Oh god, it would be awful. It was weird for the time, the things they were saying. I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
This would be uncouth in 2024.
Like, it would be so much worse if they uploaded that now. Like, to think how unhinged it was back then and the innuendos they were making, it would be just a whole other level.
Yeah, exactly. So, should we explain what the premise is of this video?
Yes, we should do that for anyone that is completely unaware of the video. Go ahead, Fizz.
Yeah. Alright, okay. So, this is a video where essentially the person, or Phil in this case, has to get a friend to do an OREO lick race. So they need a friend and a dispute to settle, which is what he does. He brings Dan in and he explains the instructions, which are, I don't remember it, twist the biscuit, lick the cream, dunk it in milk, or something of the sort. So they have to do that in that order, and the first one to do that wins, and they, their dispute is settled or whatever. So Dan Phil's
very loose concept.
Yes, you should watch the. I should have like noted this down. I'm a better note taker than that. But essentially, first person to finish licking the cream of the Oreo, which is very famous. Everyone knows the Oreo cream situation. My God. Like you like the cream first and then you eat the biscuit. I think that's like a very popular way to eat Oreos. So, oh my god, I'm losing my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
I think you covered everything there. That's basically the concept of the video. The video was like 5 minutes long. There isn't a lot else to discuss.
Yeah.
So the dispute that Dan and Phil decided to settle was something to do with taking the bins out in the morning, and neither of them wanting. Oh no, not taking the bins. Sorry, that's 2024 drama. Who takes the bins out? It was
mailman
to the postman,
mailman, right?
Exactly, because they're nocturnal. They're both still in bed at like 11 o'clock in the morning. Neither of them want to get up out of bed to go and get the post or to get whatever crazy thing Phil has had delivered. And I love this. So I think this is probably one of the first I don't know. I mean, it's probably not, but like the first glimpse into like some Dan and Phil domestic banter, which we were eating up at this time because we were taking any crumb that we could get. So Dan and Phil talking about who goes and gets the post. Yes, please feed it to me. Give it to me on a plate.
But before we start, we need a dispute to settle.
A dispute? What do we dispute over?
The meaning of life.
That's maybe a bit broad.
What about the male buzzer?
Ooh, uh-oh. Are you sure?
This has been a sore spot with the both of us. Because as we're both nocturnal and the postman likes to deliver post at about 8 o'clock in the morning.
Only ever at like 8 o'clock.
The buzzer goes off like... And it's the most annoying thing in the world. One of us got to get out of bed in our pajamas, go down about 17 flights of stairs
it's
and...
horrifying.
Yep, exactly. I wrote... So the first thing I wrote about that was 8 a.m. is a normal time for mail to come, you guys. I was judging them so hard because they're like, who comes to deliver mail at 8 o'clock? And I was like, that's very normal for people who wake up early.
Do you know what I've just realised as well? That we haven't discussed on the podcast since... Like, I don't think we've discussed it on the podcast since they said it in a video. I think, oh no, maybe we did discuss it. We can cut this bit out about them not cooking food for a year. Did we discuss that on the podcast?
I think so, because maybe in the door video.
The Q&A one, wasn't it? And I think we must have.
Yeah.
I just don't
We
remember.
must have. But in case we didn't, like, it's one of those things where they get their food delivered all the time.
But that has been a hot topic of contention on this podcast, and I think we bring it up at least every other episode that these men are keeping Deliveroo in business in London, and it seems like they are if they haven't had a home-cooked meal in over a year.
That's crazy to me. That is insane. Do they only have like breakfast at home and then the rest of it is just Deliveroo?
That sounds like how they live their life, and I don't like it.
Good for them. I hate it, but like also good for them, I guess. Oh my god. Imagine never having to cook. They could get a cook. If they can get Deliveroo, they can get a cook if they want.
I tweeted something about this. I think I tweeted like just how shocked I was that this was something that happens, because I can't even fathom that as like a lifestyle. And I had people replying to me like, maybe they have a private chef, and I'm like, they don't have a private chef. Like, I don't know what world people are living in that they think Dan and Phil have a private chef, but they don't.
I don't think so. Yeah. Private chefs are for people who have like sophisticated palates or whatever. They're not for Dan and Phil. Dan and Phil.
Also, I feel like people who have private chefs are like your 9 to 5 office workers that work on like Wall Street, and they don't have time to be at home to cook food, whereas Dan and Phil have all the time in the world to cook food.
Yeah, self-proclaimed like homebodies. They don't leave the house, and yet they don't cook. It's very, very bizarre.
Anyway, back to the dispute in the lick race.
Yes, I wanted to flag just a second. Before they start the race, Phil, when he's explaining the instructions, he says the words no tongue, just tongue. No teeth. Sorry. Let me do that again. I wanted to flag that before they start the race, Phil says the words no teeth, just tongue, which is disgusting. But I did add a note that said soft launch of the gay or just Phil being Phil? ?
Look, Phil was just talking about how he likes it, and he clearly likes... Can we keep that in? It's just a podcast.
No, we're keeping that in.
It's just giving Dan advice. That's all it was. He was just giving Dan advice.
Oh my god. Jesus. No, you know what? You weren't shamed in the fan Twitter video, but you will be shamed on the podcast. I'm keeping that in. I don't care.
While we've got my Demon Fanny hat on, which we did say would possibly be a segment in this podcast, we'll see how well that goes and whether we think that's something we want to put out there. But they were discussing how neither of them want to get up to go and get the mail in the morning. It's like a discussion between them. But my question is, how are they having that discussion if they're in separate beds? Like, are they texting? Are they shouting through the walls? Like, what's going on there? It surely would make a lot more sense if that was a conversation happening if they were in the same bed. I don't know.
I don't know. Fed conspiracy. It's come back. That was like a huge thing, like which room was not
It really
being used
was,
for
yeah.
anything. And my theory is that they used Dan's room because Phil's bed was like, they complained about that as well, like the wicker bed and all of that. So personal theory, they used Dan's bed. But that's
There we
just
go.
me.
Right, the demon fanny hat has come off now. We can continue.
Alright, okay. Continue. How do you? It sounds like disgusting things. Like my next one is literally lick off ... lick race, and then this is so disgusting. Like this is worse than the I'm gonna whack Dan off line that he says in the shuffleboard video.
I put like, so one of the notes that I made is obviously like this video is so full of innuendos, and like I've got lots of quotes from Dan. Wow, you're really going at it, Phil. Then Dan says, this is a workout. I'm going to be so good at ice lollies now. And my question is, like, what, like at the time, watching this as a fan, we would have presumed that they were both straight. So all of these like comments were to be taken in a very hetero sense. If we were to obviously take it at first glance that like we haven't heard anything other than they're not straight. Or then my other thing is obviously shipping them was like a big thing. Like at this time, like there was fanfic galore, there was video edits, there were all sorts of stuff going on. So I can only imagine like the fuel that this video would have been to the like community then.
The
Of like,
community.
oh my god, like they're talking about things like this, like, oh, like I'm gonna add this into my fic, like Dan says this and then Phil said that. Like I just think it's really, and I don't really know what I would have thought at the time. I think I would have just, it's just like, oh my god, why are they making so many innuendos? This is like so sexual. They know what they're doing, they know what they're saying.
Yeah.
But there's just this
Yeah.
like layer that they weren't obviously like acknowledging like what the actual meaning behind these
Right.
innuendos
I'm
were.
just again, I'm just like, I always say this, but 2014, I feel like walls were coming down in a way that they just were not the years before that. And so, I mean, they're nowhere close to coming out at this point, right? They're not even thinking about it. But it's just one of those things where they're like, I think, testing the waters with jokes like this, because they can be taken like you said, we took it in a like really hetero sense. But for them, it was kind of like, maybe we can slide in stuff and keep things in videos. And this is a whole video with just innuendos about, like, I'm just gonna say it like, oral sex. So, and also just like now, looking at how much Dan talks about oral sex specifically, I'm just like, interesting. So,
yeah, very
okay,
interesting.
good to know. Again, like if they did this video now, it would be so violent and so disgusting.
Oh, it would
and
be
so
awful
horrible.
because there'd be no hiding like the sexual innuendos. Like I think the innuendos they were making in this video, they were very much like making them and then sort of being like looking at each other, being like, oh, should we have said that? Like, should we keep that in? And there was like a level of sort of uncertainty and like nervousness between them about keeping these innuendos in. Whereas now, if they made this in 2024, I think Dan would actively be trying to make innuendos. And if every line he said wasn't an innuendo, like what would be the point?
Yeah. I had this one quote by Dan who said, "My dentist once said that I have a powerful tongue." And Dan talks about
that's a
his
good one.
dentist a lot, first of all. What is that all about?
We all know he
Oral
has a
fixation much?
yeah, he has a dentist kink. We all know this. He's talked about it. He's
No.
tweeted about it. He wants the dentist to scrape his gums.
Oh my god, yeah. I also wrote their techniques are interesting because they were like, I feel like you need to watch this video. I hate describing this, actually. Would you be able to explain it?
Yeah, no,
Their
it was.
techniques?
And the thing is, like, so there were 4 other YouTubers who were involved in this sort of thing, and
Right.
they all did like the lick race challenge, and I feel it's just like a very, like, I know obviously like it is a fun thing, I think that Oreo did, but like there's obviously like such a like sort of sexual element to getting people to do this on camera, which like the Oreo marketing team obviously must have realized when they like sent this challenge out. So I'm like, what was their motives behind this? And like, why are they just getting all these YouTubers to lick Oreos?
And I don't remember. I watched all of the other YouTubers semi regularly as well, so I must have watched their videos, but none of them stand out as much as Dan and Phil's. Because they made such a whole thing of it. It was so, like, I'll just say this video was very gay. Like, it was so gay.
I
In
think
general,
Dan and
like,
Phil
not in a
as well.
shippy way, nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Dan and Phil in general just have this ability to make anything sort of an innuendo, like especially like around this time, like 2014, like you could say the most normal thing and I think Dan would be able to twist it somehow into a weird innuendo, or like Phil's sort of, I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but Phil would say like the most out of pocket thing that Dan would somehow interpret as an innuendo. So I think it's very much just like their personalities.
Their
And
humor. It's like
yeah,
their
and
sense
their
of humor.
humour.
Yeah, they're
Which
such
is
boys.
so
Dan Phil such
exactly.
boys.
They're boys. There we go. That's the explanation. They're
Yeah,
boys.
that's the explanation. We wouldn't know. We're not boys.
No.
That's why it took us a second to explain that. But again, yeah, like the number of innuendos per minute are just like, it just goes on and on and on. Like at one point, Dan's like, "Ooh, broad, powerful licks," and I was like, yes, exactly. I was wondering. I was like, why weren't you taking You would have been done in like 3 seconds if you did that.
Yeah,
But
and then like
yeah.
Phil was like licking really fast.
Looking really fast. It was horrible. That was horrible to watch. I was like, ow, please don't do that.
This is just a really uncomfortable video to watch. Like I don't want to see Dan and Phil doing that. Like I don't really want to look at that. Thank you.
Anyway, that was the video.
Like
that
let's
was the
just
competition.
mention. Oh, that was a very loud. Oh, did you have something to say?
Sorry. No, go ahead. Finish yours.
I did just want to say, so at the beginning, before they start the lick race challenge, Dan says something along the phrase of like, the stakes are high, and Phil is like, oh, I thought you meant steaks as in like the food, and then Dan says the line, the beef is real. And when I watched this, let me tell you, it gave me like a whoosh of like memories, because I'd completely forgotten that phrase. Like that quote was all over Twitter, it was all over Tumblr, people just saying the beef is real, and it was like a little Dan and Phil inside joke. I don't know if you remember that.
I do kind of remember it. I just remember it kind of hitting me that was a pun, because then they said the steaks are stacking up and the beef is real, and I was like, oh, steak for beef. But I do remember like photo sets and like stuff on Tumblr of people just gifting that part as well, because it was funny. It was really funny.
Yeah, it was funny. But like, the beef is real. Like, I don't, maybe it was just me that was like, oh, this is such a funny quote. But it was like everywhere.
I don't know.
I've just found like 2 tweets from myself on like the day the video was uploaded, and then like in September, so a few months later, of me just saying the beef is real.
The beef is real, just affected by this quote. Wow. I'm glad that's what stuck with you and not the horrendous other stuff.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I also wanted to say that the stakes are actually high already because of the waking up, but then Phil brings in the concept of drawing on each other's faces, so the winner gets to draw on the loser's face. Um, which, like, alright, why did you need to do that? I think he was just so ready to win for some reason, and then he just didn't. Spoilers. Phil doesn't win.
Dan does
Because
win.
he
And I
looks
also
wrong.
made a note that I
Yeah.
think if they did do this in 2024, Dan would still win.
Yes. He knows about the broad, powerful licks now. So
Yeah, I was going to say he's had practice, but
he would you know what? He would say that before he started the race. So
yeah, he
yeah.
would say that and like just look at the camera, and we'd all just have to live with that. We'd have to live with the knowledge of him saying that.
Yeah. That's the thing, like Dan post coming out just has the audacity, and that's like it. He will say it and then he will look at the camera daring us to have a reaction. He'd be like, "Okay, I said that. I kept it in the video. What are you going to do about it? Like, you can't take that away from me."
And you know what?
Which, like, good for him.
He spent so many of his YouTube years, I think, sort of. I know, obviously, like people's sex lives and things like that are like a very private, obviously personal thing. But I feel like he spent so many of his like formative YouTube years sort of hiding all of that and not being able to outwardly make like sex jokes or talk about anything like that. So I think since he's come out, he's like literally grabbed it like with two hands and it's like, I'm going to make as many sex jokes as I can because I'm able to now, because I can make them comfortably. Yeah, I can talk about like giving someone a blowjob. And you know what? Good for him. Really happy for him.
Good for him. Yeah. And that's why I really like, I don't know, like, it's nice because I think it's a way of him sort of letting us in, obviously, and that we can joke around with him almost, but like, obviously, not take it to an extreme level or whatever. But I think him making those jokes lets us know what, um, like how close to the boundary we are or whatever. I don't know this metaphor if that makes sense, but because he's the one setting the boundary, we know like that, okay, this is allowed, so or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like he's saying that it's okay, obviously within reason, but he's saying that it's okay for us to also sort of make those jokes at him or like
At him.
sort of that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I was gonna say, like, yes, we can make the jokes at him because he's the one making the jokes. And obviously, in general, you can make and talk about whatever you want, as long as he doesn't see it. If it's something that he can't see, it can't hurt him. But if he's made a joke, like about giving blowjobs, then I think he would laugh at a joke that you tell to him about him giving blowjobs.
Oh, absolutely. He'd join in with the fun.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
He's
That's-
hey,
that's all I want to
I can
say.
I could make a joke about that. He's got way more experience than I have, so I'll let him make the jokes. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, some of my final notes on this, I just thought about the vibes of the video in general. So I don't know if, again, because it's been a while since we've watched an old video and we've had quite a few good new videos since, but I feel like Dan of 2014, 2013, 2015, this era of Dan, like, I think it was just part of the persona that he put on when he did videos with Phil, but I feel like he antagonizes Phil more, not in like a negative way, but I feel like he definitely sort of tries to do it in a sort of like mean way, and I say mean with like finger quotes. Like he says when he wins, he's like, oh, I'm gonna order so many things and then you're gonna have to get them
Yeah.
all. And I feel like there's more of a like serious tone to how he says that than how he'd say something similar now. Like he definitely still does this now, but in a much nicer way. Like just going off, so we had the little Dan and Phil Games video where Dan made a GeoGuessr quiz for Phil. And look, that video, we could talk for hours about that video and how down bad that man was in that video. But I feel like he's, even like the other videos that they've done, Dan just feels a lot more like supportive of Phil now. And I feel like in these older videos, there's definitely a more like competitive edge to him, where he's like not actively like trying to put Phil down. Again, this is all said with air quotes. I know that none of this is like actually factual, but I think there's just definitely more of like an antagonistic, oh, I want to like try and rile Phil up kind of vibe than he has now, if that makes sense.
Yes, it actually really does. I'm gonna add to that because my last point was that this is such a good preview to what the gaming channel would eventually become, because this is months, like a few months before they started the gaming channel. So, like, even early gaming channel videos, Dan is a lot like this, where if they're doing like a Dan versus Phil concept, he spends a lot of time being mean to Phil, whereas now he kind of he laughed through it, but back then he would just be like very, very mean, again air quotes, and kind of he'd be a sore winner basically, because he won more often. Just frankly, he did win a lot more because Phil is just there to vibe mostly. But Dan is such a sore winner, and he would be so mean to Phil when he won, or if he was about to win, or he's trying to distract him. So you're right, like it's just a different vibe to now.
Yeah,
completely.
and I think this sort of era is probably a lot of where the OMG Phil, my small bean, I must protect him kind of energy came from in the fandom. Like, I mean, honestly, I don't know when that VU is that Dan got, where someone was like, why are you always mean to Phil? And Dan was like, we're friends, I'm not mean to him, it's a joke, whatever it is. Like, I feel like there was just a lot of that energy at this time from both of them, and that's why I say a lot of people were like, oh, protect Phil, please protect my small cinnamon roll.
I think also, okay, so now we see that Phil actually does give it back a lot because he's allowed himself to swear and be like more aggressive and say things like twat or you stupid bitch, but back then he wouldn't let him say it, so it would kind of look like Dan was putting it on more, whereas Phil was kind of just like pouty about it because obviously he was like, I can't let my grandma know that I say things like stupid bitch, which then when we looked at it, it just looked like he was kind of helpless and made
Absolutely,
Dan look
yeah.
meaner, right? That just occurred to me. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, I think it did, like, stupid Phil with his fucking wide blue eyes, just pouty, and being like, oh, poor me. Dad's being so mean to me.
Yeah. And I think just this video in general sort of really highlighted how much their dynamic has changed. Like, if you compare their dynamic in this video to the most recent Dan and Phil Games video we got, it's just so different. And again, a lot of that is to do with obviously them growing up. They've come out. They're obviously a lot more comfortable with who they are on the internet now. But it's just different. I think, like, Dan feels quite obnoxious in this video when he wins. And like when he's rubbing it in Phil's face. And I think he's mellowed quite a lot. And I say that with a little pinch of salt because he also can be quite like dramatic now. But I think this like obnoxious.
By Dan's standards. Yeah.
By Dan's standards, he's mellowed.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you look at, for example, the date night video, sorry to make you think about that video.
Thank
but
you. Thank
when
you, Fizz.
when he wins that one, he's kind of like, he's showing off that he knows Phil better. Where other, like, not the fact that he won, he's just like, number one, you could never, or something like, you wish, or something he said at the end. Which, yeah, I don't know, like, I don't know. I think I need them to upload, like, a new Dan versus Phil for me to properly articulate, but It's the same. Do you agree with me though, like that it's a good preview to the gaming channel sort of concept that they did, where
Oh,
you have like a
absolutely, yeah.
ridiculous bet, you have innuendos, you have Dan yelling at Phil, and then and then winning, and I mean they don't have all or nothing here, but I feel like if they did, we'd be subjected to even more licking.
Oh, absolutely. So, shall we discuss the elephant in the room?
Yes, let's do it.
The
Charlotte, yeah,
if you
she's
will.
put your blood, sweat, and tears into this
Research.
discussion.
I have.
So,
You didn't hear my pun because you were talking.
oh no! Say it again. Say it again.
I said, or should I say the Ellie fan in the room?
No, boo! I'm gonna edit this and be like, put like a buzzer sounding like bad,
Mean.
bad.
That's so
0
mean.
out of 10. Boring. Sorry, this is the danification of Fizz. Sorry, just got meaner.
So we'll do a little brief TLDR of this. So basically, this video was uploaded in June, and then in November there was a whole sort of, I'm going to say drama. It wasn't really drama. It was like in the national news. It was like a big sort of thing over the internet to do with the advertising in YouTube videos. So what happened was, which I found out today because I was doing some research. So walk with me. We're going to go back in history a little bit here. There is a channel in the UK called CBBC, which is the Children's BBC, who do children's programs, and they also have their own like news program called News Round.
Yes.
So it was like News Round was like, yeah, and that was on CBC. It was like a 5 to 10 minute news program for children that broke down the big stories going on into like bite-sized chunks for children to process and understand. And it was actually a journalist from this TV show that brought this issue to the ASA. And the ASA are the Advertising Standards Authority. So it was this journalist on this like children's news program that like broke this big story, which I just found fascinating. I was like, oh, it wasn't like...
It is really fascinating. Yeah, I thought it was like the authorities who brought it up, but that's very interesting.
Yeah. And I should know as well, which I also didn't realise, that obviously this video was uploaded in June, and then this didn't come about until like November, which is crazy.
Yeah, we had the video for a bit before.
Yeah. So the ASA are a self-regulatory organisation, and that's an organisation that exercises some degree of regularity authority over an industry or profession. So their role is basically to regulate the content of advertisements, sales, promotions and direct marketing in the UK by investigating complaints made about adverts. And what happened was this journalist who worked for Newsround raised this issue with the ASA and basically said that they challenged whether these videos, so there were videos made by Dan and Phil, Emma Blackery, Tom Scott and Kick the PJ. Those were the 5 YouTubers who were all involved. And they basically challenged whether these ads were obviously identifiable as marketing communications, or whether it was sort of like blurred as to whether it was actually an ad or not. And I found some of my tweets at the time talking about this when like it all came out. And I was like, well, obviously it was an ad. Like they're talking about Oreos. It said in the description it was about Oreos. So obviously it was an ad. This is so ridiculous. Blah, 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 blah.
You were mad.
Honestly, I was kicking off on Dan and Phil's behalf.
Good for Dan and Phil. Continue.
I hope that this isn't boring to everybody. I found this really fascinating when I was researching.
This is really interesting. This is good history,
Yeah.
guys. You should know this. Yeah.
So the complaint was made, and the ASA officially ruled that because the ads were on online video channels that were usually non-promotional. So obviously Dan and Phil, when they're uploading videos, and these other YouTubers, they aren't doing ads in every video. Like they're just talking about things they've done or doing like silly sketches. They're not like doing adverts like in normal TV. But because these obviously these adverts for Oreo were uploading onto their channel, it was that the commercial intent should have been made clear before the viewers clicked on to the content. So even though Phil said at the beginning, I had an email from Oreo, even though in the description it said we've worked with Oreo or whatever it says, because it didn't say ad in the title or it didn't say like ad on the thumbnail or anything like that, that's why it wasn't clear. And no matter how clear the YouTubers made it in their video, it should have been stated and it should have been obvious to viewers before watching it that it was going to be an actual ad.
Yes. So, what I found really interesting about this is that if you are maybe a bit younger and you started watching YouTube or being on social media after this, and I know this is just in the UK, but I personally started spotting like other British influencers and stuff posting hashtag ad or hashtag spawn or hashtag gifted on their posts, especially beauty influencers, because they get sent items. Because all of this was so new and being an influencer was so new. I think as audiences we started to realize just how much like corporate stuff is in being an online figure, because suddenly you realize, oh, they're getting paid to do this video or they're getting paid to advertise this item. And I think it really changed in a big way how YouTubers are perceived and how relationships between audiences and YouTubers changed, because suddenly you're like, oh, I was like, why is my best friend Amazing Phil selling me something? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what it is. And I remember always feeling this sort of like, I'd watch other YouTubers that I loved, and sort of every other video they do would be like an ad or a partnership with somebody. And I remember like then going to like watch Dan and Phil, and I'd feel this sense of like smugness. I'd be like, well, Dan and Phil earn enough money anyway, so they don't have to do that many ads. That's why they haven't done any. And it was just so weird. It was seen as a bad thing, which now I'm looking back at it like, these people have to make money somehow. They've made this their career. Fair enough that they have to make money. And
yeah,
I suppose
and now it's now it's like a career that people like strive for. Like people grow up being like, I want to be an influencer. I'm going to build an audience and try to get free shit from brands and whatever. Like so I work in marketing currently, and there's a whole section in the marketing department just for influencer marketing, where you look for people with big enough audiences to, you know, advertise your products with. So it's such a new thing, and I think 2014 is around when 2013, 14, 15 is when that sort of propped up and just sort of changed the landscape, which is why this is really interesting, which is why we're telling you about it.
Yeah. So I actually found like the original news report from Newsround. I watched a video clip of it, and they interviewed this other YouTuber who's called Chayaz. She had lots of subscribers back in the day. She wasn't involved in this. I think they just wanted to find somebody who they could talk to about being a YouTuber. And she obviously stated that there were no like regulations in place prior to this about what constituted like an ad or like what rules there were for doing ads on YouTube. And she said that she'd had companies emailing her asking to do like promotional content and saying to her, oh, can you like promote this product, but don't make it obvious that the video is sponsored. Like, don't do that. Like, don't mention us. Like, keep it really low key. We don't want your viewers to be scared off, basically, which is crazy to think about. Like, because you can't do that in traditional media. But there was this loophole with YouTube, and then they interviewed an MP as well. I don't know who the MP was, who was saying that
this went big.
Exactly, that there was this like loophole with YouTube, that because there wasn't these regulations in place, companies and advertisers, and I think none of this is the YouTuber's fault. I do want to say that. Like, I saw lots and lots of tweets when I was doing some research that like people were like, oh my god, remember when Dan and Phil got in trouble for like the Oreo video? And I was like, that's not what happened at all. Like, the YouTubers didn't get in trouble. Like, they were just doing what they were told from the company. So none of this was their fault. And it was just, and I suppose it's not really the company's fault either, because there was this loophole because they didn't have the guidelines in place to regulate advertised content.
Yeah, exactly. Because again, like YouTube was such a new thing. It was such a new form of advertising. It was probably like really lucrative for companies to be like, "Ooh, this is some." I will say, I hesitate to defend companies because I'm just like, this is how you decided to make money, and like trick consumers or whatever. But um, was I saying? Yeah, so because it was so new, they could kind of get away with, possibly, I don't know this for sure, but they probably could get away with getting cheaper advertisement with YouTubers because YouTubers don't know how much ads cost, so they must have been like, oh yeah, I'll talk about your product. I get free things, you get my viewers' attention. It's a win-win for everyone involved, and they probably didn't get paid a lot, just in my experience.
I also think as well, just because of the nature of like what YouTubers were at this point, because they were still, I mean, Dan and Phil did have like a steady career at this point, but I think it's still that thing of like they're not really celebrities, they're not like actors or singers, so they're still very much normal people. So if like Oreo came up to them and were like, "Hi, we want to give you some free Oreos. Can you talk about us in a video?" You'd be like, "Oh my god, yes! Like obviously I'm going to do that." And they're not really going to be looking at how much they're going to be paid, because I think at this point, I think Dan and Phil did have like a management company, but it was still like in its infancy. Like YouTubers were still like they were maybe like 1-2 years into having like talent agents, and obviously having YouTubers as your clients was still a big new thing that I think people were trying to navigate, because it's not the same as having an actor or like a singer or like a comedian on your like client book. Like it's completely different set of rules.
Yeah, exactly. And I think they could afford to be, I mean, okay, also like 2013, 14, they've said that this was the era where they said yes to everything. Like they were working day in, day out. And they probably got a lot of emails because they were growing a lot faster, especially with they were a year into doing the BBC gig as well. So they were getting, I think, regular income, so they could afford to not do as many spawns as maybe their peers. But they were clearly picking like really exciting things like the Crave Challenge where they could do more, or the OREO Lick Race, or whatever. Um, um, but yeah, I agree with you. Like, I agree with what you said.
Yeah, so all this happened. So the company that was in charge of Oreo is called Mondelez UK. And they basically released this massive statement saying they didn't intend to mislead customers, and they stated that the vloggers had been engaged to create ads on behalf of Oreo and they were all paid and provided with the products. They stated that each vlogger referred to the fact they had been working with Oreo, and that the vloggers made reference to the others who had made like the Lick Race videos. So while like they had put in the description that they were part of that, it was also part of the Oreo internal policy that they had to state in the video that they were working with Oreo. And I think a lot of thing to note about this as well is lots of like viewers weren't like, "Oh my god, what do you mean this was an ad?" Like there was no one that was surprised that they were being paid by Oreo and that it was like an advertisement. But I suppose, and I think that's why people got sort of quite like defensive about it. They were like, "Yeah, but we knew it was." And I suppose that's not really the point though, because they were sort of breaking these laws and like guidelines that were in place.
Yeah, yeah, because in traditional media, you would assume that if an actor is, walking around wearing just one specific brand of clothing, you know that they are like an ambassador for them. But with a YouTuber, it's a bit harder to gauge that, especially at that point, um, because they weren't plastering it all over every single piece of social media. It was just a YouTube video that they were being paid to make, you know?
Yeah. So all this happened, and then what came after this basically was that now anytime you watch a YouTube video that has some like sponsored content in it, it says ad in the title, or it will say ad on the thumbnail.
Yeah.
And I think
And now, YouTube also has like a banner that says
Yes, it
includes
does.
paid promotion. Yeah. So that's what
Yeah,
happens.
so the sort of guidelines that came out after this, and like you can find all this on the ASA website. There is a specific document that is called like Influencer Guide to Marketing, and there's like a little flow chart. So if they're unsure of like how to label something as an ad or like a brand is, which I found really interesting. So the ASA said that videos that are wholly advertising content, including a prominent ad label near the beginning of the title and or prominently in the thumbnail, so that it's clear before people engage with the video, and just putting it in the description is not sufficient because you can't see that before you click on the video, and it should be clear immediately before or at the time the advertising starts that the video is an ad.
Yeah, because sometimes, so if you watch some of Phil's videos, sometimes he'll mention the sponsor of the video in a segue and you won't know there's a sponsor portion coming up until he says it. But sometimes if he's working with a bigger brand like Disney, I think Disney or Marvel, when he says his "Hey guys," there'll be a block of text below that says this video has been sponsored by Marvel or Disney or whatever.
Yeah.
So
And
I think
obviously each
depending on
company
has
they
its
work with
own
will have different like
guidelines.
laws or like guidelines that they say, right, we're going to partner with you, but when you say it's an ad, we need you to say it like this and say that and then do this.
Yeah. So some of them, I mean, depending on what company you work with, you have certain freedoms. I think Phil likes to work with companies that give him a lot of freedom because I can't imagine another company other than like Dragon City letting Dan and Phil do the things that they do. Same with NordVPN, like they seem to be very flexible with like the stories that Dan.
But how
Yeah.
much money are these men being paid by Dragon City and NordVPN that they keep partnering
I
with
know. That's like, I know. Like, I think they're paying the mortgage just like,
Oh,
just for those. I think
absolutely.
that's a huge part of it.
The mortgage bill like comes through and they just send it straight to NordVPN and they're like, you pay it this time, please.
Exactly. So, yeah, like, it's such a very interesting part. I wonder how much it affected, like, how much they talked about it. Because in 2014, I don't know if you remember, this is such a vivid thing for me, but in the festive day in the life, they have this whole discussion when they're wrapping presents. And Dan's like, this video is so corporate, like, everything is a brand. Here's our Starbucks, um, here's our coffee, here's our Starbucks something, and then he was like, your brand, Phil, you're amazing, Phil, and then Phil goes, hashtag spawn. So I wonder if that became like an inside joke once this stuff happened around the apartment. They were just like, hashtag spawn.
Possibly, because I think especially
Yeah.
after this like whole issue was like came out, I presume that there would have been companies and YouTubers would have been so sort of like panicked, like doing any form of ad, being like, oh my god, like, is this going to fit in with the guidelines? Like, have I done this right?
Yeah. Now it's so common. Like, it's such a natural part to, like, there are now like influencer brands, I feel like. Like, you know, there's a Squarespace spawn, you know, there's
Yeah.
a VPN spawn, you know, there's this and that, Skillshare, whatever.
But yeah,
It
so
wasn't a thing back then.
it wasn't, no. So all this came out, and I think all the videos that the YouTubers had uploaded had to like just be more specific. I think they maybe changed the title or put more in the description or like edited the thumbnail. Phil since took his down, which I presume maybe would have happened like a year or so. I don't know when he took it down, but I presume that it was taken down because of the issues surrounding the video. And I think all the other YouTubers as well who were involved, their videos are no longer live on their channels because of everything that happened.
Yeah. Sad.
Very sad, because it was a fun video, I think.
Yeah.
Fun?
Yeah,
Is that the right
thank
word?
God. Fun? It's funny. For sure. Yeah. Oh yeah, even Tom Scott took his down. His has been re-uploaded. Well, a lot of like regular people did it just for fun, I think.
Oh, definitely. Right. Shall we move on to some outfit ratings? Now we've got all the boring legal
Oh
chat.
wow, it's
away.
been a while. It's been a while. Yeah, okay, let's do it. I almost forgot. Let's do it.
So Dan is wearing the beloved Horn hoodie, a staple of the 2014 Dan is Not on Fire wardrobe. Fizz, how many Oreos out of 10 are you giving the Horn hoodie?
This is a beloved hoodie to me, so I'm giving it 10 on 10. I think it's a fantastic item of clothing. I love it.
An excellent answer.
Yeah. What about you? How many Oreos out of 10 for the Horn hoodie?
It's also getting 10 Oreos out of 10 from me as well.
Yeah. We love the Horn hoodie in this house.
It has to.
Yeah.
This was a staple of his wardrobe, and now he's got like a replacement one, because I presume this one got really old. He got like a new one. It's like, oh, there's Dan. Oh, there's his Horn hoodie.
Yeah, like as soon as it was winter, we knew she was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
he
Phil,
really live in it, even like,
he did,
live
yeah.
shows and stuff. Yeah. Phil
was wearing a lovely blue cloud t-shirt, probably a Top Man special. Fizz, how many Oreos out of 10?
I would give this one an 8. I think it's very nice. Blue always suits Phil. It's one of his like more fun t-shirts, and that's not just like a graphic t-shirt. So yeah, 8 on 10. 8 Oreos.
Yeah.
What about
8
you?
Oreos
How
out
many
of 10.
Oreos? Yeah.
I'm
How many
also
Oreos
giving
out
it.
of 10?
I'm
8?
also going to give it 8. 8 as well.
Wow, we're so in sync with this one.
We are, and I'd written these ratings down beforehand as well.
Wow. Good outfits. They're classic like blue, grey, black combination.
Yeah.
I like it.
So that was the video. I was about to say, shall we do video ratings? But I don't think we've ever done that. I think we maybe did that in the first episode, and then we forgot to do it again.
Yeah, no. No.
It was a
a
fun
good
one.
video.
I would
Yeah, it
recommend
was really good.
watching it just to maybe see like the dynamics that we talked about. Just to see if you agree with us.
We'd love to know because, again, we saw this in real time, and now we saw it sort of in hindsight. With hindsight, I don't know.
Hindsight, yeah.
But yeah, so it's so obvious to me, and I'm assuming to you that it is so different. But we're getting closer and closer to what it started to be like by like the time they went on hiatus, I would say.
We are,
it's
yeah.
getting-
We're inching ever closer.
Yeah. Again, because they're gonna start the gaming channel in like 3 months from this. June 2014. Gaming channel was September. We just had the anniversary as well. I mean, that was
We
ages
did.
ago.
10 years. That's crazy.
Insane. They forgot. They didn't tweet about it, but we knew.
Phil said Dan told Phil to tweet about it, and Phil thought of a tweet, but then he fell asleep.
Oh, grandpa. And they had a fight about it. Apparently, they like
Have a
had
fight
an
about
argument.
it. Yeah. Good for them.
Good
Keeping
for them.
the domestic banter alive.
Yes.
So, Fizz, what is the next video we're going to be talking about? Would you like to share with the group?
Good question. Guess who did not look that up?
The tension's unbearable.
Oh my god, the suspense. Ah! Oh my god. Okay, wait. I know. It's not like I make the playlist. I just accidentally played Pin Off. It's fine. So the next video we are covering is another hashtag spawn. We're doing Dan the Dinosaur versus Phil the Lion. The
Oh my
the
gosh.
extinction race. We might also, this might be a double feature because the one after that is Phil's version of that video, which is the
Maybe
water
we do
race.
it as a double. Maybe we double up.
Yeah. Yes.
Did we
So,
double up the other
aren't you-
ones?
We did. No, because Phil's wasn't as joint content as Dan's. So we didn't.
No,
do
it wasn't,
Phil's.
was it?
Yeah.
We did
We
just
didn't
Phil's,
stand.
did we?
Yeah. We did the bed one. Then
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we combine
So-
these and we do it as
Yes.
one big Crave special.
Yes. So aren't you glad we gave you so much context for the hashtag spawn of it all?
I'm ready for some more hashtag spawns.
Yes, I'm ready for some hashtag spawn. If you would like to sponsor the Best Friends Club podcast, please email us at Best Friends Club. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
VPN, get in touch.
No, this is for fun, not for profit. Profit? Profit.
No, we've gone too far.
The PHification has genuinely gone too far these days.
I mean, we technically PH'd this podcast title because when Dan and Phil say it, they do just say the word friends, but we decided to put a PH in there.
We did, just to be quirky. Okay, that's it. That's our next video that we're discussing. Thank you all for
Yeah.
listening to this episode.
We will see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye!